There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
Welcome on into today's Program Guys podcast. I am hosting. My name is Matthew Gann. I got Ryan Tyson and Patrick Hershberg. That's right. It's only the three of us today. The mighty
pray for us.
Pray for the content today. It is not going to be exactly the same, but it's going to be exactly different in the best kind of ways. No Mark, no Mason here today. It's going to be quite a chaotic podcast. We got a lot of content. Make sure to follow us if you're not already doing so. There's probably a 90% chance that you're not subscribed to this podcast. It would really help us out. We got YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Be Real, Snapchat, Threads. I mean, Patrick, what am I missing here that the people need to follow us on?
I think he got it all. Facebook? Did you say Facebook?
Facebook. I mean, how
I don't
can
think he said Facebook.
It's got
I think
1
he said
billion
Be
active
Real before he
users.
said Facebook.
1 billion active users. Make sure to follow and subscribe. We got a great show for you guys here today. Again, going to be a little bit different the way Matt Gann likes to host, but just want to throw it out to the boys.
Only thing I'll say is, everybody, this is episode 116.
116.
Can you believe it? 116 episodes. I've lost track.
How did we make it?
Count the days.
How have we survived this long is the real question.
I'm not exactly sure, but we are going to continue with today. We got some great stuff. I want to throw it off to the boys. How's everyone's week? I know we all just got back not too long ago from Mark's wedding. Are we recovered? How are we feeling all together, baby?
We're recovered. We're good. March Madness has been a lot of fun to watch, especially Caitlin Clark. And I'm in the 98th percentile of my bracket.
Wow. So, flex on us a little bit more, Patrick.
Yeah.
I mean, do you know basketball or do you know basketball?
I guess I do. Yeah.
Incredible.
Did you guys watch the Iowa LSU game last night? Because that shit was electric. I loved it.
It was amazing.
Incredible. Ryan, you sent it to us earlier. Over 12 million people.
12.3 million people. The most viewed women's basketball game of all time. And they had a list. It was more viewed than the 2023 NBA Finals. It was more viewed than the 2023 World Series. It was more viewed than the 2023 Big Ten Championship. Like a lot of like large sports programs, and it beat that. So the power of Caitlin Clark and I guess Kim Mulkey,
Angel Reese. We'll throw in Angel Reese. Yeah.
Angel Reese in there. Little Kim Mulkey action with the Washington Post article that is way too long to read, that I'm not going to read the whole thing. But yeah, it was a great game. Loved it. Thought Caitlin Clark's electric, and it was really exciting. So is the women's side of the tourney more exciting than the men's? What do we think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. South Carolina against Iowa, that's going to be huge.
Yeah. It's popcorn. It's just like ready. It is TV, is made for television. I'm so excited to see it if that's indeed what happens. But the men, and we're completely off the rails here because we said before we got onto this pod that we were going to start with OU football, and now here we are. But I have thoughts, and that is that the men have no superstars. None. I literally cannot name a single superstar. Like, who is going to be taken first in the draft? I know you guys probably know this answer, but like, I literally don't.
I mean, I know Zach Edey is probably the biggest name. Maybe that's just me coming from a Tennessee fan who hates the guy.
Yeah.
But
how about
I don't
them
hate
Bulls,
him, but
baby?
you know what I mean.
How about them Bulls, huh?
Hey, they were really close.
Zach dropping a 40 deuce on you guys' heads or what?
But anyway, no one compares to like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, like those names that are coming out of the women's side. Like, that is so much more exciting. And this is why basketball needs sports in general, not just basketball, but basketball right now needs superstars. Like, we need superstars because we want to watch that. Like, that is what people want to see.
RT, if you guys aren't watching the YouTube broadcast, RT's got his bucket hat on. He has now taken over.
This is now a bucket hat. But
Ryan's
yes,
black hat is taking over. Well, what a thriller to start this show. I mean, if you guys are still here, make sure to continue to tune in. Again, subscribe and like to our page. But let's gentlemen jump into some OU football. Patrick, give me some news on the commit front. A big one
Absolutely.
that recently just came in. Tell me a little bit more about it.
Yeah, Mark Hall dropped a crystal ball, I think, a while back about Tory Blaylock, and
Quite
he
some
is
time.
officially committed. He's a running back from Atascocita, down in Houston area, and besides his commitment, he also shattered, him and his team absolutely shattered a 26-year high school track record in the 4x1. The team running 38.92 seconds. Tory running the last leg of that
That's
of that
fast.
meet. So he's just a fast guy, and he's going to be explosive when he comes to the University of Oklahoma.
Did you
S-
guys see this stunt at the commitment when he pulled up the Texas hat
Yeah.
and then like his family member, like what did his family member do? He like ripped his shirt open or something with
No,
like,
family member held down a sign with an
oh
arrow
yeah,
pointing downwards. So like
pointing
he put on
downwards.
the
The
UT
horns.
Texas hat,
Yeah.
and then the sign was pointed
So his
downwards.
horns down.
Yeah,
Incredible.
yeah.
What is that?
Oh, fireworks at Ryan if you're watching on YouTube right
If you
now.
guys are watching on
Whoa.
YouTube, there's fireworks going on behind me for some weird reason. I don't know. There's a lot of weird things going on with my
Well,
Zoom, but
let me tell you, this Tory guy is going to be fireworks because he is 5'11 and 190. This is a huge get for Oklahoma Sooners, but really in particular, DeMarco Murray. Obviously, a few weeks back, there was rumors spiraling that Ohio State was making offers, and then all of a sudden, OU turns around and gives him a pretty nice increase in his salary. And this is what we want to see. We want to see guys coming in, highly recruited running backs, because OU has a long standing history of having these types of guys in the room. But can DeMarco be able to develop? This is what we want to see out of guys like Taylor Tatum and other guys that are coming in the recruiting class. We love the big names, but the running back room was a little bit of a problem last year. There wasn't a lot of consistency or one big breaker guy that came out and really solidified the number one role until it was really Gavin Shawchuk at the end of the year. But we need the offensive line as well as the running back room to be in a line if we're going to get anywhere in the SEC. Because as you guys know, they play big boy football, and it really starts with the ground and pound game. So this is a huge get, but we do want to see the development of some of these guys heading into this year and obviously next year with the talent coming in. Any other thoughts on Tory Blaylock, Patrick, Ryan?
no, I mean I think you summed it up well, Gan. DeMarco Murray, we know he can recruit. Can he develop? Is the second question that I think, we 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 have known now more information from last year around the health of our perceived starters at running back. And, a lot of that is not in Murray's control. I'm very interested to see this year and next year what we are able to do because I think you're right, Gan. I think the running back room historically, I mean, you talk about OU and running backs, like this is huge for us. So I need this room to be good, and I hope that Tory will be part of how special this room is going to be. So,
Well, with the amount of money that DeMarco Murray just made in the last few weeks, this is really where you can't just be a recruiter, but you have to be able to show it and develop these guys on the field. That's where the real money is made. Patrick, we got another guy on the radar. Talk to me a little bit more about him.
Yeah, Wilson was crystal balled today, April 2nd on Tuesday night. If you're listening to this on Wednesday, he's a four-star composite according to 247, 6'3", 270 pounds defensive lineman, according to 247 as well, from Upper Marlboro, Maryland. So up in the Northeast,
mm,
trying to get a defensive lineman back down to Norman.
I love that we're going after someone in Maryland. I love that. I know we're going after people everywhere, but it's nice when you see like, oh, that's not like Texas or that's not, like Oklahoma or that's not our usual picking area because like that's exactly what we're gonna have to do going into the SEC, and we've seen that more and more with this coaching staff. So I'm glad that they haven't dropped the ball on some of that stuff yet.
Yeah, just
Completely
to
agree.
name other teams that have also offered: Tulsa, Air Force, Navy, UTEP, Nebraska, South Carolina, Florida State, OU, Penn State. The list goes on and on. He's also been talking with Ohio State, and A&M as well. So some very big blue blood programs that are known to turn out defensive linemen. Hey, I hate the Aggies, but they've got some guys on the D line that are unforgettable and obviously
I
NFL guys,
I hate the
as well
Aggies.
as Ohio State. So when you're competing against these bigger schools for top rated prospects like this is exactly the kind of guy that you want in your room. And you can see what Todd Bates, Miguel Chavis has done with the defensive line recruiting. We talk about Daniel Okoye, Nigel Smith, David Stone, Jaden Action Jackson. Guys,
Pat's
that's a pretty
boy.
loaded room, but you got to keep reloading every single year to add depth and add guys behind. So have they done a phenomenal job the last couple of recruiting classes? Absolutely, but you want to continue to add because you're going to need all the big guys on both sides of the line. Trent Wilson could be another guy. Hopefully, we'll see Mark once he comes back. If he maybe drops his balls, we'll have to get his insight
I don't know. Well, he's
as
still
well.
100%. You know, he's a little picky when it comes to dropping the balls.
He
So,
still has one outstanding ball out there.
oh,
That's
what
for
is it?
Nate Roberts,
Oh
I
yeah,
believe,
the
the
yep,
tight end out of
mm-hmm.
Washington, who I believe
Yep.
has some visits coming up with a lot of different schools, including OU. So could be one to watch out for. But Mark has been right so far.
He
Can his
has.
balls continue to be right? We shall see. Any last thoughts on either one of these guys before we move on here?
No,
Nope.
let's do it.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about a different segment here. Spring ball has been going on for the last week or 2 weeks as they lead up to the spring game, April 20th. If you are in Norman, boots on the ground, Oklahoma City, wherever you're at in Oklahoma, trying to make the game, see what these new kids and Jackson Arnold with the Jack offense has to offer, especially with all these new incoming freshmen. We're going to do a segment here about what you guys feel like the team needs from spring practice to propel them going into the fall season. So, Ryan, I'm going to start with you. What is one thing on top of your mind that you want to see from spring practice?
The one thing on top of my mind has been the one thing on top of my mind all of off season, and that is our offensive line room. I still feel that this is the room that I know the least about, and I am the less like I'm least assured about. And I think it's going to be arguably after the performance we saw from Jackson Arnold in the bowl game, arguably is going to be the most important uh, room that we have. And I think that is because we have a brand new quarterback who has the tendency to hold on to the ball. He said it so himself. And he is going to learn, I think, and get better as he goes. But he's going to have an offensive line, even from like the get-go of this season, and especially when we play Tennessee and start the SEC journey, we're going to have an offensive line that can hold for him. And I think, you know, flipping back to what we talked about with Tory Blaylock and like all the things that DeMarco Murray is doing, we understand how important our running back room is. And that's only going to be as good as our offensive line as well. So I think there's a lot of arguments to be made around that. The most important thing for us is to continue with this defensive trajectory that we have going, that we kind of saw last year beginning to increase and continuing to see that. I think that's important, but I think the more important thing is on the other side of the ball. And I think it is the ability to run the run game. And that starts with the offensive line. I don't care how good your running back is. If your offensive line can't hold or can't do anything or can't block, it's going to be very difficult for you to be successful in that game. And then being able to hold for a quarterback who is brand new, you know, and is going to be working out some jitters as he goes. So that is the thing that I'm looking at. And just, you know, to mention that we're probably going to be more doing like an in-depth review on some of the spring practice that's going on and what we've seen before the spring game. And I think April 20th.
Yep.
So look for that in the next couple of weeks. But I think that's the one thing I have my eye on over the next few weeks, and to see if we are able to, you know, we're not going to know for sure until we start playing the actual games. However, I would like to be a bit more comfortable going into next year with that room.
Ryan, let me ask you this, and not to put you on the spot. Is there someone in particular that you feel like should have a coming out party or you feel pretty confident on? Because really, to your point, I'm looking at the roster right now and losing 2 starters last year from the offensive line, trying to replace those guys as well as transfer Caden Green, who we thought was going to solidify at least one part of the line. Anyone in particular that you're thinking could be someone to break out this upcoming season?
That's a great question, Gan, and you put me on the spot, and I don't have a name for you. I just think it is because that we're losing the people that we are. Somebody needs to step up. That's a terrible answer, and this is what I mean by like chaos on the pod this week. But
It's the right answer.
Chaos.
It's the
Like,
right answer.
like
Yeah,
someone
yeah.
needs to
Somebody
step up.
is the
And like
correct
I don't
answer.
really care who it is. Like that's the thing. And I think we'll get into it. I could make a prediction that it's going to be this person or that person. But like
why?
I don't really care. I just I need one person
Yeah, why
to
would we
step
do
up.
that?
2 people to step up. The entire offensive line needs to step up because they are losing so much talent this year, and it's going to be so important for us to protect our quarterback and be able to run the ball, or our entire offense is screwed, and then it doesn't matter how good our defense is. So like it's everybody. That's the answer. The whole room needs to step up.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the depth chart here, and there could be a possibility where a couple guys are freshmen starting their positions. And again, we talk about this from time to time again that what Bill Bienba is going to do is the line's not going to be the same the first 4 or 5 weeks. I think he'll probably have the line solidified by the 4th game when Patrick's Tennessee Vols come into Norman for the first SEC home opener. That by that time, hopefully we'll have a line solidified, but there's probably going to be some young guns that are going to get their shot being able to start. When we think about Daniel Okakume, as well as Eugene Brooks, some of these guys that are very highly touted guys that have been recruited by Bill B and this offensive staff to possibly get their chance at making their way into the starting lineup the very first week and maybe holding position. But we'll have to see what happens from there. RT, you were about to say something.
No, I was just like, now that you reminded me, I think that the chatter has been that Eugene Brooks just kind of looks like a monster. So I'm interested to see if that comes to fruition in actual game time. But that would be like the freshman to watch out for, I think. Other than that, I mean, you got Jacob Sexton, you got Troy Everett, you got
Heath Ozada is another name we've been hearing through spring practice. Another redshirt freshman, 6'5", 312.
They all need to step up. I'm still going to claim that. So
yeah, I absolutely agree. You got to have BV said it multiple times. Got to have the line in the trenches, the line of scrimmage is where you build out from. Patrick, hopping over to you. Any comments on the offensive line from RT, or you want to jump into your segment?
I think we covered it, but similar to the offensive line, I'm going to go with the defensive line. We've seen news that weight has been gained by many of the players, and so I think that's good progression, but I really hope that in the spring they're continuously focusing on getting pressure to the quarterback. Last year, we continuously spoke about the bend, don't break mentality. We were doing enough, but going in the SEC, just very scary because those boys are bigger and stronger. And there were times in many games, almost every game, where we wanted more pressure on the quarterback. And we continued with the bend, don't break mentality. With the great secondary that we have going into next year, I don't mind sending 4 every single time. I don't mind sending 5 very often either, because I definitely trust the man-to-man coverage or the zone coverage, whatever it's going to be in the backfield. So I'm really hoping that the freshmen step up. We get what we need out of a David Stone, a Jaden Jackson, and then also a guy like Ethan Downs. We need to see the older statesman in the room create that pressure and get more sacks. I think we only had about 14 and a half sacks last year, which decent number, but probably just not good enough. And I don't see that number increasing going to the SEC, which is scary.
Yeah, that's not going to be my prediction this year. and it
Yeah,
always
I was
has
gonna
been.
ask, wasn't that your prediction? Was
It
sacks
was
total over?
real tough.
Yeah, that's a real tough look. But that's why it's a prediction, because it's gonna be a little bit more
Unless
outlandish.
you're Patrick or unless you're Matt Gann, who picks the easiest predictions in the
I
world.
don't know what you're talking about,
I didn't
but
have easy. I just had right, baby.
No, you didn't.
Yeah,
You were right. I'm talking
Yeah,
about Gann specifically.
yeah, I wish Game was here to defend himself, but he isn't. But Patrick, to your point, I think we do have a good mix of guys on the defensive line, like PJ, well, Trace Fords is obviously medically retired, but guys like Nigel Smith, Daniel Okoye, obviously David Stone, really the anchor for the recruiting class coming in, the big get there. But R. Mason Thomas, Ethan Downs, Wyatt Gilmore, guys like Grayson Hampton, Caden Woolard. I mean, this defensive line just goes on, and I can definitely see how BB has done in the past of rotating a lot of these guys, because I think a lot of these guys are going to be able to get playing time as they continue to find out what is going to be the best group to put on the field. But to both of your points, go in the SEC, we're going to be playing better offensive lines. I was just looking at the NFL mock draft. They currently have projected about 6 to 8 offensive line going potentially in the first round, and a couple of them coming from the SEC. So that just tells you the type of talents. We're talking about first round draft potentials that these teams, Alabama, Tennessee, I mean, the list goes on and on, that they have, they're no joke. There are some big boys on that offensive line. So how do you combat that with the athleticism of the defensive line? And we got plenty of athletic makers. We're going to have to see which group ends up being the best for us. Guys, any last comments before I move on to my segment on the offensive defensive line?
Well, just one last thing. Speaking of Tennessee, I believe they're returning most every starter on their offensive line. So,
No, how do you know that, Pat?
Yeah,
Tennessee
Tennessee insider
big
Patrick
fan?
Hertzberger.
Tennessee insider. So that first game is going to tell us a lot. It's going to tell us a
I
lot.
still think he's going to show up in orange.
We'll find out.
It's going to be one of those,
We'll
like,
find out, but I'm going to hit on the
split
final
shirts. That's what he's going to show up in.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry again.
Yeah, Henley's only. All right. One thing that I've been thinking about for spring, and this is probably the group that probably has, I wouldn't say the lowest expectations, but man, there was just no production from this group. I'm going to go the tight end room, especially some of the transfers and some of the guys that haven't got their shot yet. But if we think about Byers Sharp, Caden Helms, Byers Sharp, yeah, Caden Helms, Blake Smith, Devon Mitchell, Caden McIntyre, Hampton Fay, this group is going to comprise the 2024 tight end room, which is a much needed upgrade from last year. So just want to give you some totals. I want you to know how remarkable the tight end room was last year. In total, they had 20 catches for 252 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Ooh, that's tough.
That's a tough look. And a majority of that coming from one player, and that was Austin Sogner, who obviously transferred back in from South Carolina, just not ended up being the tight end we were looking for. Now, granted, I want to, for those viewers out there that follow OU football, was there a lot of scheme in Levy's offense to get these tight ends open, or were they used more for run blocking? That's kind of how we saw it last year. But I believe with the new offensive regime coming in with Seth Luttrell, Joe John Finley, I believe the tight ends are going to be a little bit more heavily utilized in the passing game. To go from 20 catches, 252 and 2 touchdowns, I think you're going to see quite an increase, at least double that throughout this group, because, man, Devon Mitchell is going to lead that pack. And I think in a compliment with the guys like Sharp, and hopefully if Caden Helms gets healthy enough to get on the field, see what he's capable of. I think there's a lot of upside potential in this tight end room because they're coming really from a very low place. I'm just going to be honest with you. Anything they do above what happened last year is going to be a lot better than what we saw. So hopefully we're going to see some emergence. We've already seen some inklings of some of the tight end room making some fabulous catches in the spring. But is that going to translate to SEC football? Because as you know, Georgia's got one of the top tight ends in the league, Brock Bowers, who's probably going to be a top 10 pick. And that guy is an absolute freak. Or even the Texas tight end last year, who dominated in the Big 12 championship and a little bit in the playoffs. These tight ends can be more utilized than run heavy blocking schemes. They can definitely are more athletic than they ever have been before. I want to see this tight end room really take up a couple notches this year. What are your guys' thoughts on the tight end room?
I mean, I think the idea that they can only go up is pretty spot on. And I'm excited to see their use in this new offense because I think now that they actually, I mean, they might have had Austin Stogner's a good tight end. Like I think he was underutilized in the offense last year. I think that some of the talent that they have in now is high enough that you can't ignore them like maybe we ignored them in the past. And I'm really excited to see, Mitchell, and I've heard really, really good things about Sharp coming out of spring so far. So I'm just excited to see a different kind of scheme that allows us to leverage. We've talked about how talented the wide receiver room is. You have a very talented wide receiver room. You have a very talented tight end room. Your options are kind of endless at that point. And I think that makes it incredibly difficult for these teams that we're about to face this year to defend our offense when it comes to, secondary coverage. So I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, just hoping we overall utilize our tight ends more with the new offensive scheme. I feel like last season defenses weren't even respecting the position, and at least not until the end of the year. So hopefully we have a good enough scheme where the defenses we play against have to respect that position, especially if the offensive line is struggling.
Yep.
All good points. Well, that is a new segment we brought in. We'll have to get Mason and Mark's thoughts. If you guys are listening, make sure the next podcast we are going to implement that you guys bring an own segment for what you guys want to see out of spring, or maybe just create your own video and post it yourselves. I mean, hey, it only takes too long.
World's your oyster,
Why?
guys.
World is your oyster. Well, let's move on to one of the last segments here. I'll take over the Circle the Wagons. Just a couple quick updates for you guys because a couple sports just ended last week as well. So starting with OU baseball, 15-12, 7-2 in conference play. Not having the best of weeks last week, losing 3 straight to Lamar University, 12-10, 13-8, and 6-3. I think it's imperative that this team can score runs, but they cannot stop teams from scoring. And the pitching has not been all that great to start the year. They will play Wichita State in a 3-game series against OSU in Stillwater this weekend, looking for a potential rebound. Women's gym going to start their NCAA tournament run April 4th. That is this week. They will play in Ann Arbor, Michigan against NC State, Ohio State, and I believe either Illinois or Ball State at this point. So good luck to the women's gym as they go for consecutive titles there. Men's gym will also compete in their MSPF championship, the men's version of the NCAA tournament, or the prerequisite, I believe. That is this week, April 6th. So good luck to both men and women's gym as they go into the postseason. Last 2 updates here is men's tennis continues to roll 16-2, 4-0, 9-game winning streak. They recently beat TCU 4-3, UCF 4-0. They will play Texas A&M, Baylor, and Texas. So they are making a Texas road trip. We call that a Texas 2-step around the states as they continue their hot streak.
It's not a thing we call it, but okay.
Texas 2-step. Here we go. And so if you guys aren't tuning in, tune into this men's tennis because I've seen highlights, I've seen scores. They are dominating opponents. So if you're not tuned in already, make sure to do it, especially when they're at home. Go support this team as they continue to light the world on fire. Women's tennis, 12-5, 7-2. They recently beat Iowa State 7-0 and Kansas 7-0. They will play BYU and Texas Tech this weekend. So good luck with those programs. They continue on. Patrick, Ryan, anything from the Wagon segment you guys want to hit on before we jump in?
That was beautiful, Gan.
Again,
once again, I would just like to say that women's sports at the University of Oklahoma are killing it. Like, killing it. Softball, basketball went further than I think anyone initially thought they would. Gymnastics on the way to hopefully another national championship. give them a huge shout out for everything that they've done. So awesome stuff.
Absolutely. Guys, this is our favorite part. MVPs or LVPs. I know this is typically a segment where we come up with one on the spot. We're checking Twitter last minute. I know that's what I'm doing.
I got
Patrick.
one.
Okay, RT,
Yeah,
I'm
let's
ready.
start with you.
I'm
Dude,
ready.
Let's go for it.
I'm never checking Twitter.
And I'm doing this because it's something that we were thinking about talking about today. But I'm going to tie this into my
Beautiful.
MVP, LVP.
It's a
Absolutely.
twofer.
My
Twofer.
LVP is our very own Patrick Hertzberger.
Oh, guys.
One of our own. One of our
And
own.
and the reason that I'm giving my LVP to Pat is because they announced, I believe it was this week or last week, that and they had already announced this in the past, but I think we had more details around it, that the Cotton Bowl is undergoing a large renovation, like I think $140 million, and that's the largest renovation that it's had. I don't know if in its history, but in a very, very long time. We've talked a lot about that they need to put investment into the Cotton Bowl if it is going to continue to stay the home of OU Texas. And our very own Patrick Hertzberger is the only one that is on the side of it moving to Jerry World, which is just a horrible decision. And I will never let him live down that thought. So my LVP this week is Patrick, because this renovation announcement, again, just cements the fact that the decision to keep it at the Cotton Bowl is the right one, and that most people agree. So, LVP, Patrick.
LVP. Yeah, that's a good one.
I
That's a good
respect it. I respect the hell out of it.
Yeah, just to give you an
But
update,
I love you,
I
so.
got the list of things that they're going to do with 140 million. I'm not sure if this actually constitutes 140 million, but you guys tell me. Improvements will include over the next few years adding 14 new escalators, new multi-story entries at least
Escalators.
2 west gates, widening the upper concourse on the west side to triple the current square footage. I think that's probably a good one. 2 outdoor terraces, doubling the size of the main concourse to feature new Art Deco, increasing the number of concessions, restrooms, hospitality areas, and
Huge.
premium seating, and adding a new club in the West Tower with multiple suites and seating options. Listen, the biggest thing to me, more bathrooms.
Mhm.
My goodness, every time I go in there,
More
it is
concessions.
absolutely packed. More concessions, and hopefully
We need more access to
food.
beer.
We do. Even though you can't walk out of the stadium, but it is more of an inconvenience to walk out of the stadium and come on
Yeah.
back with everyone else, especially
Yeah.
everyone walking around. So these improvements, again, from what I'm reading here, it's going to happen over the next few years. 140 million. The biggest thing is I want better seat support.
You
and
might
more
not get
bathrooms.
that. I don't
Probably
know
won't
if
get
you'll
the seat
that.
support, but they're also, they said they're
And
going
it's
to
still
make
going to be hot.
still going to be hot. And
Hey,
they said
last
they're
last
also
year was great.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we're gonna get a hot one though. It's probably gonna be this year. But
yeah, other notable improvements will be boosting in-stadium Wi-Fi signal, new and
Huge.
updated signage,
that's really
plus the
annoying.
expansion and upgrading of the press area in the south end zone. So I'm
I
not
know
sure what the
people have-
signage means, but
I know
who knows?
people have talked about the press area being really bad. So
It's an old stadium.
the whole thing,
Yeah.
it's like 100 years old. Of course
Yep.
it's tough, but it's tradition and I love it. And they're not moving on from it. So suck it, Pat.
Yeah, suck it, Pat. All right, give me your MVP, LVP, Pat.
Yeah, my MVP of the week is our sponsor, Hype Shoes.
Oh
Been
yeah.
one of our sponsors in the past. Hype Shoes
Oh, yeah,
going on
baby.
Shark Tank, April 19th, 8:30 Eastern. Be sure to watch. There's a Hype Shoe. Matt's holding it up right now on the YouTube. Yeah, April 19th, 8:30 Eastern time.
Incredible.
Hype Shoes will be on there. Go.
We
give
wish
it a
them
watch.
the best of luck, and hopefully Mark Cuban invests because I love that
We
man.
will see.
That's huge. And what a flex. And we're now talking to a famous person, Patrick Hertzberger. That's incredible. Congratulations to you and the family there. That's quite the, if you can't see me right now, I'm flexing those guns that Patrick wishes he has. My MVP, and I should have tied this into the wagons. I can't believe I missed it, but here we are. OU softball, 34-1, 12-0 in conference play. They're currently on the most winning active game win streak. Obviously, they held it not too long ago with 70-plus wins. Currently on a 16-game win streak after sweeping bring out the brooms against KU 6-1, 17-0, and 7-3. Now they're going to head down to Austin, Texas for a little 3-game series against number 5 Texas.
I love it.
Fun facts. This is the MVP, the true MVP. Mike White, the Texas head coach, is
The worst.
He is 1-15 all time against OU as Texas' head coach. OU has won 30 out of the last 31 meetings with Texas softball, and they have won 11 consecutive series wins. They are also number 1 in batting average, fielding percentage, on base, scoring margin, total errors, total walks, winning percentage, second in home runs, runs scored per game, slugging, total runs allowed, shutouts, and their third total with total ERA. If that's not a purely dominant program, I don't know what else is, and I hope they beat the brakes off the Lady Longhorns this week and just do an absolute beatdown of Mike White. And again, nothing against the players. It's really just Mike White. He is just horrendous. We saw him when he flipped off some of the fans a couple years ago during the Softball World Series. That's what you get for playing OU. You're going to get dominated. We're not going to let you get away with that. MVP, OU's softball season so far as they continue forward. Guys, that wraps it up. I mean, guys, look at us. Huh?
Look at us.
Look at
Who
us.
would have
We did
thought?
it.
Who would have thought that we made it through an entire episode without Mason and Mark?
Episode 116. We scraped on by, put our 3 minds together, and we made it work. And that's all you could really ask for. Guys, thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, I've said this multiple times, so make sure to like and subscribe our YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Be Real, whatever it else is that we're on, Apple, Spotify. Please feel free, or please helps us more than you know. Thanks for tuning in, and can't wait for the next pod next week with maybe some more of the guys. We'll have to see. Patrick, let's get us out.
Keep pushing it, baby.
There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.